Thank you all. I'm glad I had that back up there. Formatting might be off, but at least you'll get to see the slides. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first Access conference ever. I was told this was the conference with the nicest people in the library world. I'll probably test that today, so we'll find out. But thank you so much to the organizers for putting this conference on. It's been absolutely incredible to be back in Montreal and to be here today with you. Today, I'll be talking about Advanced Research Services, which is a service area at UVic Libraries, and how it developed out of our digital scholarship support at UVic Libraries. So it's a case study around a question of how do you socialize technology in the library. This work stems from my work as a digital scholarship librarian, as well as my work as the head of Advanced Research Services. Yes, my first management job was head of ARS. So very good. And when I applied to this conference, I planned on having that role for quite some time, but I've just recently got a new job as a director of the Library Futures Academy. So a lot of this work will continue. But I also come with the good news is they do plan on replacing me. So do keep your eyes open for a job at UVic in the coming months if all goes well. I do want to give credit to my colleague, Rich McCue, who is our manager of the Digital Scholarship Common and who has really developed the educational resources around the tools and software that we teach at UVic Libraries. And I also want to give a special shout out to John Durno, who's our systems librarian, who's also made all of this possible with his very collaborative and open spirit. And we love him dearly, and I don't report to him, so I really mean that. So thank you, John. The issue today is introducing new tech and teaching in the university library in a new way. Are there any of you out there who got a new pet during COVID? A dog or a cat? Excellent. We got a dog in our family. And one thing that we realized was a problem is we didn't have a lot of opportunities to socialize the dog because we were locked down. So she still barks at garbage cans as we walk down the street. Socializing is very important. And I think the theme of today is socializing both the teaching of tech and the operational realities of tech within the library. Many of you may have heard the management phrase, culture eats policy for breakfast. In many ways, culture eats tech for breakfast, but in our case, it's been very nourishing. So I wanted to share our experience with you. This all today's talk stems from the Digital Scholarship Commons, which was created in 2017 at UVic Libraries by the university librarian, and the hiring of Lisa Goddard, who many of you probably know, also the most wonderful person to work with, as our associate university librarian digital scholarship. And as part of that team, we created this space that was modular, invited everyone into the libraries for the learning and teaching of tech, including librarians, in this space. So it became a very collaborative, open environment, but that doesn't mean it didn't come without its problems. One of the issues that we faced is how are we going to represent ourselves in terms of the wider university community? And Rich McCue sort of took his cue from I believe it's the University of Virginia, where they have this idea of we help the university community explore and express ideas in ways other than text, right? Of introducing that idea of software, of digital tools as being another argumentative or discursive space for scholarship to happen. What was also really important to us is that this wouldn't just be tied to one specific discipline or faculty. And because my history has been in the humanities, it was really important to bring humanists into this tech space as well. And we were very fortunate to have a humanities dean interested in Street Fighter, the game, and bought 2 PlayStation 4s for us to actually have in the Digital Scholarship Commons so that students could not only take part in virtual Street Fighter tournaments that they used as part of humanities programming, but also that we can incorporate into the library for use by other students. So we try to make it so as new tools come in, it might be useful for one particular community, but then we share it with everyone else. And there are those operational realities of cataloging a PS4, the work that John and his team had to do in systems to make sure that this system kept up and running. So for example, whose account is all of this being run on? And then how to actually get it set up in the library so it's useful for students. It also became a space for community showcasing. And I suppose one of the messages, as many of you already know, tech still has a certain cachet in the wider community. When we talk about tech or libraries, it still gets press. It still gets interest from deans and other faculty. So this allowed us to really have a space where we could show off the type of new work and the type of new tech that was happening in the library. In terms of technology, outreach, consultation, and training, we wanted to provide access to this advanced equipment and software that wasn't also widely available on campus. So for example, the engineering students had access to 3D printers. No one else did necessarily. So by having a 3D printing lab in the Digital Scholarship Commons, by having teaching and workshops around the 3D printers, not only did we have engineering students from first year come in, because they weren't allowed to touch it until second year, we had students from across the disciplines, and this has become one of our most popular workshops and services that we offer in the libraries. This includes everything from the 3D printer, green screens, video editing. We haven't been able to afford the Apple headset yet, but we do have the Oculus, which has been absolutely amazing for teaching because we have archaeologists who are actually putting their dig sites into Unity. And the dig site is a skin that they create, and they can have their students enter into the dig site long before they actually arrive. So a lot of teaching can occur before anyone touches a spade or trowel. In other ways, the Anne Frank House, for example, has a wonderful VR experience for students who are learning about the Holocaust. So it's really put the library back into teaching in a way that's been very easy for us to liaise and work with faculty in ways we weren't able to do before. Arduino and Raspberry Pi also has become a really important tool just in terms of digital literacy. I've already admitted I was a humanist, and I'm still fuzzy around how computers work. I think I know, but the Arduino kit allows us to have students and librarians and faculty getting their hands in the wires on the breadboard, making things work. And when that first light lights up or the first sound is created in the speaker, it truly is a transformative experience for those students. And on the right there, we have a list of all the workshops that we've created. And we do this both in terms of one-on-one support in mastering new technology and skills. But what's made this really nice as well is it allows us to collaborate with our colleagues across libraries on the West Coast in particular. So UBC has really led the way for us in terms of offering free online workshops. They've created a GitHub template that SFU, UVic, and UBC have all adopted so we can interchange our workshops easily or just grab and adapt as needed. And again, I'd be very interested to talk to folks at this conference about what type of technical solutions you've developed for this type of sharing. My personal favorite of the developments is our podcasting and sound editing workshop. This has become probably the most used tool in the library right now. I can't even use my own podcasting room anymore because students have priority, and they've really adopted this technology, I think for two reasons. One, the efforts around decolonial thinking and Indigenous research is a part of the undergraduate curriculum now at UVic. And podcasting has been an incredible way of working with First Peoples House and having an opportunity for students to create dissertations as oral testimony. So this has been a wonderful way for community outreach, for students to do their research and for the libraries to be thinking of ways for preserving things in ways other than text. So the issue in question is, how did we socialize this? Because there were friction points. The major challenge wasn't technical, as that's already been pointed out already today. One of the big issues was collegial buy-in for the DSC. And I'm not going to hide this. It was hard at first because we had someone creating educational content and teaching who wasn't a librarian. And we have a tradition at UVic libraries that librarians only teach in the libraries. No one else does. So even though this person had expertise, had literally written a master's on this type of workshop, it was challenging. And for those who didn't mind that, there was suspicion around change. Would this become a part of our annual review? Would there be expectations be put on us that we're not necessarily cool with as part of the collegial process? What is library instruction? And finally, was this a way for management to weaken librarian and archivist rights in the collective agreement? These were big issues. And a lot of our work was addressing these so that suspicion was alleviated. And a part of that was librarian engagement around instruction. It really forced us to ask, what is the instruction that librarians do? And we really focused on the idea that we do information literacy, right? That's something that we've done for decades, if not centuries. But there might be something different about digital information literacy or digital information fluency. How many of you have heard of the Instructional Skills Workshop, or ISW? It's an absolutely wonderful program. I think Carpentries, if you've heard of that, is based on a lot of the ISW principles. Well, what we kept hearing from colleagues was, listen, we're used to subject-based one-shot instruction. That's what we do. And ISW, scaffolding is a big part of ISW, but we don't have that opportunity because we only see students maybe once in the term in the classroom. So we worked with our learning teaching, our LTSI folks, and created the Library Instruction Program, or LIP, based on ISW principles, but specifically for librarians used to one-shot instruction. And this really helped create a culture of experimentation and confidence around teaching. The other thing we did is we got money for hiring graduate assistants. The other thing I had to realize is I can't learn everything, I can't teach everything, but we have wonderful expertise on campus. So we were able to hire graduate students to fill some of our needs. So if we needed someone to teach RStudio or LaTeX, they came in and they held office hours during the week that librarians, that faculty, that students could use. But the reason why this was so great is it gave liaison librarians another way of collaborating with their faculties to say, the library has this new opportunity to hire graduate students. Do you have anyone in mind? So it became a great way to collaborate with them. We also had great student success, still do, around micro-credentialing. Students are thirsty for these tech skills to show on their resume that they have this extracurricular activities and specific tech skills. We also created a suite of subject-specific workshops, Google Maps for public history, infographic design for public history, scanning and digitization for Holocaust studies, iMovie for Pacific and Asian studies, etc. I only have one more minute, so I'm just going to skip to the end. All of this led to more and more engagement, specifically with the faculty. And we have the grants menu, which allows the library to work directly with faculty in SHRC, Tri-Council, any other type of grants through publishing digital research collections, building, hosting exhibits, and metadata. The result of this has been an exponential increase. I don't know if I'm using the word exponential right there, but it goes like this, right? In terms of participants, worldwide reach, and a lot of badges issued. And this is where we stand now, $9.42 million of grant money awarded as part of our research engagement with faculty and students. And here are key stakeholders of everyone involved that made this possible, including our grants and awards librarian, John, Rich, and there's Lisa working with the Banda people in Guinea, where she was helping, much like our speaker this morning, digitizing their local records for preservation. So I'll stop there for questions. Thank you very much.
Raise your hand if you have a question. Any questions?
It was very thorough, so
I think everyone was impressed with the exponential growth.
yes, thank you.
Just do you regret UVic advanced research services?
No, because I'm a first-gen university student, and there's always that going home at Thanksgiving to talk to your family. And I think they in particular enjoyed the fact that I was head of ours because it confirmed many of their suspicions growing up.
Just so it's on record, the question was, do you regret leaving Advanced Research Services? And thank you for the answer.
All right, thank you. Oh.
I noticed you had to skip a couple of slides, and I was just curious about the one about librarians and students that you had to skip over, and I just wondered if you wanted to speak to that.
Absolutely. Because students became really excited about the learning they were getting to do in the libraries, they were reaching out to their liaison librarians and asking about the DSC workshops. And that really encouraged a lot of the librarians to start participating with the students, which again helped engender those connections between librarian and student throughout their careers. And one thing I didn't get to point upon here is that it actually became really good in the end that Rich wasn't a librarian. Because if we're talking about that spirit of humility, that spirit of generosity, the DSC became a space of non-judgment where everyone from the VPAC to a first-year student are taking the same workshop together and failing or experimenting or succeeding together. So in the end, it became a really wonderful opportunity just to play without a type of professional judgment that I think many of us carry within ourselves. So in the end, it became a wonderful place of play.
Yes, hi. I was wondering about the micro badges. How do you issue those? Is it something they can, it's like a digital badge they can put on LinkedIn, and which technology, or how do you issue those?
We're doing LinkedIn now because that's where the students seem to be. That's what I forgot what the office is on campus that does it. But co-op, I think, urges students to use LinkedIn. We were using Badger, but they've become, I think, more locked down. This is actually a better question for Rich, but we mint the badges. I think we're still allowed to mint using Badger, but we actually incorporate the student's final product into that badge. So it's not, we don't have to be a verifying institution for that institutional memory. So if someone calls us and say, did the student get this badge? We don't have to worry about that because their work is actually in the badge itself. So when they do the Excel spreadsheet, that is linked within that. So the student carries that self-verification with them forward. So that has been very useful for us because that was a problem in terms of capacity.